Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play-to-earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about a legendary summoner, and I know with the release earlier today of Conqueror Yasik, the new legendary fire summoner, their abilities and stats, you probably would be thinking we'd be talking about Yasik, but in actuality, I've been wanting to create a video on the upcoming legendary Earth Summoner for quite some time and haven't got around to it. So I was kind of motivated today after seeing Conqueror Yasik's abilities and stats and wanted to talk about the legendary Earth Summoner Immortalis and the predictions I have for this particular Splinter and this particular Summoner. Now, I think what we can see is a pattern emerging with the Chaos Legion legendary summoners between Grandmaster Wraith and now Conqueror Yasik. And I wanted to talk a little bit about where I believe the Earth Splinter will be going at the tail end of the Chaos Legion meta. So as we hop into this, let's look at the pack data right now. You can see here, this was taken earlier today. We're at 9.5 million Chaos Legion packs sold. So we're just a little bit more than halfway to getting the airdrop for Conqueror Yasik, which is excellent. And looking forward to that. I think he is a beast of a card, and I know quite a few content creators have been talking about Conqueror Yasik earlier today, so I probably won't be doing a video necessarily on that. There's a lot of other great content talking about his kit and some of his fire splinter monsters that are going to be buffed because of that change or that introduction of Conqueror Yasik. But what I want to note here is just the order of the summoners. This is coming from a Hive article, and the anticipated order of release is listed here. You can see we already have a Grandmaster Wraith in the game. We just got Conqueror Yasik's Fire Splinter Legendary Summoner details. Water is next, and after Water is Earth, and Earth is going to be Immortalis, which is actually this image right here of Immortalis here with a lightning bolt, with a staff, and with a friendly canine with him as well. So what I want to talk about that's interesting when we look at the legendary summoners from Chaos Legion thus far, what is common amongst the two summoners we know of is the mana, 6 mana, right? And we also have each legendary summoner granting the Splinter team 2 abilities and 1 buff. The 2 abilities for Grandmaster Wraith that are granted are Void Armor and Amplify, and the buff is +1 armor. And when we look at Yasik, who is just unveiled today, we see a similar trend. 6 mana, 2 abilities, in this case, Scatter Shot and Piercing, and the buff being +2 speed. So when we look at Earth, what are my initial predictions for the legendary Earth Summoner Immortalis? Well, the first ability of the 2 abilities that he will likely be giving to the Earth team, in my opinion right now as things stand, the first ability that I think would be given by Immortalis would be Close Range. Now, the second ability, prior to Conqueror Yasik being released, I would have said would have been Piercing for the Earth team. But since Conqueror Yasik has Piercing, I don't think that's going to be what Immortalis will get. So for the second ability for Earth, what I believe Immortalis may get is Cripple. So Close Range and Cripple for the 2 abilities that Immortalis would give his Earth Splinter team. And for the buff here, what's interesting here is I would have normally have probably said +1 archery, but given that Piercing is not available as an ability to likely give to Earth, what I believe the buff will be for Immortalis will actually be Rust. In this case, -2 armor, which is similar to the Wizard of Eastwood. And is this unprecedented to give an Untamed or Dice ability in the same Splinter to a Chaos Legion Legendary Summoner? Well, the answer is no. The Wizard of Eastwood is -2 shield, which is essentially the ability of Rust. And if Immortalis got that, it would be similar to Conqueror Yasik giving his Splinter piercing, which is the same as what Quid Yuff does to fire already. So it's not unprecedented. So now that you have my predictions on the two abilities and the buff, the two abilities again being close range, cripple, and the buff being -2 armor, let's talk about why I believe these are coming to the Earth Splinter and why I think it will boost the Earth team and make them very competitive in the meta. If we take a look here at Earth in the game and we look at the recent reward cards coming out of Chaos Legion, what do we see for the reward cards? Well, 50% of them, or essentially 2 out of 4, here are archery units. The first one being the Venari Seedsmith. And the Venari Seedsmith doesn't get a lot of love currently in the game. And you can see him here at max level. He is a 5 mana, 4 archery, 4 speed, 4 health monster with scavenge and poison. And he doesn't get a lot of play, well, because he's really not that good using any current Earth summoners. But you can imagine Venari Seedsmith here getting close range, allowing him to use his archery in the first position, the scavenge allowing him to build up health along the battle, and then, of course, cripple allowing Venari Seedsmith still to do some damage to the health of an enemy monster, even if they have to get through shield for the first 1 or 2 attacks. But then again, remember, Immortalis we're also predicting to take 2 shields away. So again, giving some solid archery buffs to the Venari Seedsmith here that would be quite valuable in the meta moving forward here. Again, if they had 4 archery damage with scavenge, close range, and cripple. Is it overpowering? No. But does it make it a strong consideration to include in a Earth lineup led by Immortalis with those predicted abilities? Yes, definitely. Now, if we also look at the other reward card here that was introduced by the Splinterlands dev team, the Vampiric Blossom, obviously has a use case in the wild and modern format with Llama Kron and in the wild format with Llama Cube. But again, it's not a card that you would use, let's say, on a regular basis. But here, again, with 5 mana, 3 archery damage, 4 speed, 7 health, with Oppress, Death Blow, and Immunity, the Vampiric Blossom becomes again a card to consider under an Immortalis Legendary Summoner lead if you have the close range ability, if you have the cripple ability, and if you have the rust ability, essentially a -2 armor. This unit then becomes viable for a general team to consider. And what the Splinterlands dev team has gone on record to say previously is they don't ever want to nerf cards or buff cards, but they'd rather introduce new cards or new units that essentially restore balance to the game and don't make one meta too overpowering. So definitely by creating a Immortalis Legendary Summoner with the abilities that we've been talking about would certainly bring balance to some of these underutilized reward cards. Now, if we also look at the Chaos Legion set itself, there are definitely some strong use cases here for cards that may not get as much play. Specifically, I might be looking at Eyes of the Fanged here, which is perhaps the worst Chaos Legendary card right now. It's a 4 mana card at max level with 3 range damage, 4 speed, 3 health. It does have scavenge along with sneak and stun, but in the current setup with summoners for Earth, just not a really good card. But when you add close range, again with the scavenge, allow it time to work and still be effective in the front spot, give it the rust and give it the cripple, it becomes certainly a much more viable card to consider using, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having a legendary airdrop card if, well, it sucks, right? So this could be a way to right that wrong. And then certainly Hunter Jark's already a good card, but becomes really, really good as an epic here at max level with close range, with cripple, with true strike, with snipe, and already has a good health pool to work with. And certainly the -2 armor would be beneficial as well. And I think what's important to note here with Acid Shooter specifically, already a great card, especially at the max level. So a Diamond and Champion with the Scattershot, Poison, and Cripple. But one of the weaknesses of a Immortalis range team with these kind of predicted abilities is a taunt unit with return fire. So a shield bearer, a Magnor, a wave brood with taunt and return fire along with amplify would just really, really chew up any legendary summoner with an archery based focus. But if you have a unit like an acid shooter, or you have a neutral unit like a gem meteor, it provides some options to get around that devastating return fire, amplify, and taunt. So this will obviously under Immortalis be a also very strong consideration for lineups with a ranged focus if that comes to pass. The other thing that we can take a look at from an Untamed perspective, here you would see, for example, Beatrix Ironhand maybe was an attempt at predicting the future here for the Earth Legendary Summoner. Here you can see she does have close range and cripple. So here again, not a card that's really necessarily used because, well, you can't really bring multiple archery or range units in an Earth team that really capitalize on those abilities. But if you had a summoner that granted them to your whole team, well, then definitely this could be a strategy worth considering. And then last but certainly not least, you have really a card that would really shine under this type of Immortalis ability set, and that would be the Mythica Headhunter with the piercing, the shatter, the crazy range damage of 6 range damage, 5 speed, and 6 health. This would be a definitely beast of a card under an Immortalis with a ranged focus. And if we look finally here at the card art itself, you can definitely see with the lightning bolt, definitely could be a ranged or ranged attack type focus. You've got the K9 there, which could definitely be something that could help cripple your opponent. So from a card art perspective or a lore perspective, could potentially be something that would fit the abilities we're talking about. So what do you think? Is this something that we might see in the hopefully near future? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.